Welcome to the ALX Show, where we talk faith, family, and all things real estate. Let's get to it. Josh Alexander, thank you so much for joining me on the very first episode of the ALX Show. So for those of you who don't know who Josh is the principal at ALX Real Estate. He is a real estate broker. He's got 15 years of real estate experience, whether that's flips, ground up construction, multifamily syndications, and now looking to focus primarily on private equity and private lending. And so this episode, or this podcast rather, is going to be talking about the value that ALX and Josh and his insights can provide on the real estate side, and would love for people to get more involved in the community, especially in DFW real estate if you're local. But also talking a lot more about life, about being married, about being men of faith, about how that and all those interplays affect business and affect, the kind of work that we're doing. And so I am so excited for everyone listening to glean so much wisdom and insight and just really learn to love Josh, because he's become a friend of mine, and I just have appreciated so much his wisdom and his just your outlook on life. So Josh, thank you so much for joining. I am excited to get this podcast
Hey,
rolling.
hey, thank you, Brandon. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so tell me a little bit about what is going on in your life right now, and also
Mhm.
how you see ALX, um, I guess, kind of reshaping the way that you're viewing real estate, about how the market is affecting you
Mm.
guys right now as we're entering into 2024, getting deeper into the spring of 2024, and just give us a picture of what's going on this year, for y'all at ALX, but also in the real estate market.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. So the real estate market is still tight. It's still hard to operate in because of interest rates.
Mm,
And we've been in this environment going back now mid 2022 or so when they really started increasing rates. And since that time, it's been challenging
mm,
for anyone, anyone in real estate. I'm sure if you ask them, that it went from really, really good, in 2021 when interest rates were so low. And then as interest rates started coming up, it just got harder and harder. And now as we sit here today, there is some optimism around rates. We have lots of Fed officials telling us that they're no longer going to hike. It's just a matter of how long they're going to keep them where they are before they start cutting. Could be summertime or early fall, based on some of the recent commentary. But real estate is so volatile, or so rate dependent, or rates are so significant within real estate, whether you're talking about investing or uh, buying your own home, with mortgage rates. So when rates go up like they have so much and so fast, it's just really caused problems for guys like us that want to buy, also that would like to sell some assets, and also people looking to move. When people bought homes, pre-COVID or right after COVID, right when interest rates were really low. I guess really right after COVID when all the money started um, coming into the system, and rates started coming down. The people were buying homes like crazy because all of a sudden, with interest rates being as low as they were, their affordability went way up.
mm.
So they can now buy homes that they otherwise would not have been able to. And a lot of those people are still sitting on those rates, on those mortgages in the 3%. And if you have that, and you're looking at buying a new home at what is today around 7%, it doesn't make a lot of sense to move.
Yeah.
Now, when you're looking at from an investment perspective, we underwrite, not just we, but real estate investors typically underwrite deals with some type of leverage.
Mm.
And when the interest rate on those loans are really hard to predict, or volatile, or are moving so much in such short periods of times, it makes it hard to really underwrite a deal, because on the day that you first underwrite it to the day that you close, you could be looking at a different rate, and that changes the whole economics of the project. So there's a lot there.
Yeah, you've talked before about how basically the market is just sort of frozen right now. It's just kind of locked up,
Hmm.
and on
Yeah.
different sides of the economic transaction. But one of them, to get into some of the broader themes of what we want to talk about on the podcast, one of them is if you're a realtor and nobody's moving, like you're
Mhm.
saying, because they're sitting on their low interest rate mortgages and they don't want to move or,
Right.
whatever. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was something like, this is the lowest home sales at this time in like 30 years,
In many
yeah.
years, existing sales.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty amazing. So
Yeah.
if you're a realtor, times are not great. You're not moving the kind of volume that you would want. It's harder to take care of your families, maybe, just different things like that. But then on
Mhm.
the investment side, like you said, um, there when you go into a deal, you have this pitch deck or this proposal, and
Mhm.
it's got one rate on it, and that rate makes all of the economic calculations one way. But and then
That's
it
right.
takes 60 to 90 days or so to kind of close that transaction. And within that span of time, at least the last year or two, the way it's been, that rate can be totally different 60 days from now, which puts so
Mhm.
much pressure on the deal, of course, but then also like your faith, or your patience, or just the different components of yeah, just trying to be like in real estate right now and in 2024. It's just really, really difficult. So I just want to underscore that
Mhm.
point that like it seems, yeah, just super challenging right now.
Yeah, yeah, the rate also, dictates loan amount, so it's challenging, you see a lot of sponsors going through this right now where they have a certain rate that they think they're gonna go to closing with, although everyone is very aware, given the last 18 months, 24 months, that there's no guarantee there. I mean, things are moving quickly, um, but when that rate goes up and then the loan amount drops, in order to meet your debt service coverage ratios, all of a sudden, you gotta go find more money.
Mm,
And typically your equity is more expensive than your debt. So now all of a sudden the economics, like your total cost of capital is moving in the wrong direction.
mm,
And so you got a lot of guys out there that that maybe do go under contract and then they have to retrade or renegotiate because all of a sudden the economics of the deal are off or they're different than what they anticipated.
mm,
And that's not good for the buyers, it's not good for the sellers either because the sellers know that it's not necessarily just a buyer problem or a specific buyer problem. It's more about, in general, the environment and that any other buyer they go to is likely gonna have the same issues.
mm,
So it's just challenging. It's just that's what it's hard to get transactions done.
mhm,
Um, going back, a little bit about the you asked about faith, and we just have to believe that one, that God's in control.
mm,
Um, Ultimately, He loves us. He cares about us. He's got good plans for us. Those called according to His will. And I think ultimately, even when things are tough, we need to to seek. We need to pray, uh, and we got to trust because we know things will pass. We know things will pass, especially real estate cyclical.
mm,
And in the midst when we're going through that, I think it's just it really tests your foundational truths about what you actually believe. Like if you're getting a lot of anxiety, and I'm not saying that I don't get, I do. We all get anxious. It's stressful, all those things. But then when you're up against it and you're facing that, where are you going? Um, is are you praying about it? Are you remembering what you profess to believe? And that's what's written in the Bible about who God is and what He says He'll do on our behalf, and that He's in control. And are you getting peace from that? You're taking peace away from those truths, and it really tests. What do you believe? And that's good. That's a good thing.
mhm.
Because we want to know that we have conviction around our beliefs. And the only time I think that we really know that is when things are hard.
Yes. It's like that picture, I think I got this from Charlie Munger or somebody, but when the
Mhm.
water recedes, you're standing in the bay, you're standing in the tide. When the water goes out, you see where all the rocks are, or you see who's swimming
Mm,
naked, you get that kind of
right.
picture, and that's kind of where the water has
Yes.
receded, and you're starting to see who's really got, the I guess, financial capital to make things happen, but also the mettle, the patience, the faith, the fortitude to keep going when it's really challenging. So
Mhm.
yeah, so grateful that you're
Yeah.
you're forging ahead. What is something to shift gears a little bit? What is something that you're really looking forward to in 2024? So I know if you
I
guys
think
are keen watchers of the 10-year treasury rate, and
every day, yeah, we follow it closely.
yeah, and so I know that watching that, hoping that will improve. but that, like you said, some of the Fed officials have talked about not hiking rates. Perhaps there are some cuts coming later this year, depending on how the economic data shakes out. But
Mhm.
yeah, how are you thinking, positively or hopeful? Like, what are some things that are looking good to you in 2024, especially in the DFW area?
Well, we are optimistic that rates will be coming down, um, at the Fed level, but then also ultimately what we look at is a 10-year, like you mentioned. The 10-year is probably the most important benchmark rate for real estate,
Mm,
whether you're looking at long-term fixed rate debt or for your mortgage rates. You want to follow the 10-year. It's typically going to be a spread above the 10-year is what you're ultimately going to pay. So we do follow the 10-year very closely. And we think that rates will come down. I think in order to avoid a recession, they're going to have to at some point. And that's the indication that we've been given, right? When that's what the Fed officials are saying. It's just a matter of when. And like you mentioned, it depends on the economic data, when it starts to show weakness and inflation starts to convincingly come down for a long period of time or show the correct trend. And I think we're getting there. I do. I think we're closer to that, uh, than certainly than we've been, but I think we're probably a few months away.
mm,
And when those things start to happen, I believe transaction activity is going to pick up,
mm,
or really accelerate. It's going to pick up quickly. It's going to accelerate. There's going to be a lot of people looking to either refinance, especially in the multifamily world, refinance deals, or they're going to look to trade deals.
okay.
It really depends on where they are and on that specific project and what makes the most sense. But it'll also for realtors or on the residential side, then um, all of a sudden it becomes a lot more feasible to go out and buy another house, or it makes more sense to maybe to leave a lower rate if you're not jumping from a 3.5 to a 7. Maybe you're jumping from a 3.5 to a 6 or an upper fives. But you've been wanting to move and you've got a lot of equity because home prices have shot up too.
Mm.
Home prices have raised significantly over the last couple of years. So there's a lot of people sitting on a lot of equity within their homes, and people are going to want to realize that. So we are optimistic that just the economic factors, biggest one being rates, are going to work favorably in as far as transaction activity moving forward in this year. And then, like you mentioned, DFW and DFW, in my opinion, is the best market that we could possibly be
Mhm.
in. Uh, it consistently leads the country in net migration, job growth. Living here, I can tell you there's an energy you do too. I mean, you know this. There's
Mhm.
an energy in DFW. There's you feel like there's a lot of advancement. There's a lot of optimism. There's a lot of opportunity. In any direction that you drive, you're going to see new development. You're going to see new companies coming in, just more and more economic activity, uh, and and we don't see any reason for that to slow down or to stop. I think the fundamentals are here in place. We've got a very diverse economy. I mean, I think we match up pretty well nationally as far as job diversification, industry diversification. So we're not super reliant on one industry. We see more and more headquarters moving here because it's a business friendly environment. Um, uh, Tax wise, government wise, it's a very business friendly um, place to operate. Land is also cheaper here than some of your more your traditional big metro areas where companies would probably consider moving to. You're going to find a better deal here than you would there. Cost of living is going to be lower too. So um, it just makes a lot of sense, I think, for people to continue to come to DFW, and for us to continue being very optimistic and hopeful as far as investing here.
Yeah, I about that energy is that's what caught my attention, when you said that you can just, like, feel the energy in the space. I was just at a happy hour in Southside Fort Worth here, near where I live, and the whole theme of it was all the development that's happening here in Fort Worth
Hmm.
downtown or, even in the South Side. there's all new buildings going up. I think, Texas A&M has a huge, building campus, going in downtown. And yeah, I mean, there's just so much happening here. And so it's an exciting time. I mean, a lot of my friends, early 30s, kids, they are, yeah, excited to stay in Fort Worth. There's a lot of like, it's a billion degrees in the summer, but yes, but we still want to stay,
No,
And so, yeah, it's just an exciting time to be here. So, yeah.
yeah, and, Fort Worth, if not the fastest, it's right there at the top as far as fastest growing cities in the
Yeah.
country, and, Fort Worth has just done an incredible job, in my opinion, as far as planning out their growth. I think it just keeps getting better and better,
Yeah.
and, we don't see that change anyways. I mean, it's got proximity to, you just think about anywhere in the Metroplex as far as proximity to both Dallas and Fort Worth, DFW Airport, Love Field, um, lots of major interstates. I mean, it's a really, uh, there's just a lot of fundamental strength here that, that I think is gonna carry this area and continue to make this area great for many, many years.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can definitely sense that as well. So I want to close every episode with, what's something that you're learning right now? What is either God teaching you? What's something you're learning in business
Mhm.
or about the real estate market? What's something that's really caught your attention, is being pressed upon you, and you're feeling like this is going to be an important nugget, that I'm learning in this season right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to get into there, which is good, right? We always wanna be learning. Um, I'd say trust.
Okay.
Trust is a big one right now. Um, Although we are optimistic and hopeful for what's coming, it has been, challenging to really hold on. Thankfully, our projects are all in good places, um, but, with the acquisitions being so slow, um, and really like, feeling helpless around that, and, it's not that we don't wanna buy things, it's that, um, as we can't buy things responsibly, right? You don't you we wanna make sure we're making good decisions
Mm,
and with, and the right valuations and with where interest rates have been and with kind of the debt market, we just haven't been able to do that. And, and so it's it the we've been it's been good in that we've been, we've really jumped more into asset management and learned a lot there. Just when when you're not buying things, then you gotta get more efficient. That's the answer, right? If you can't grow the top line as fast as you like to, then you gotta look at the bottom line,
mhm,
and that's really what you're doing there is trying to become more efficient, running things, more effectively. And so we've learned a lot there, and I'm grateful for it. But just trusting God, through the slow times, and it's not easy when you've got a young family like I
mhm,
do. You feel a lot of pressure. You feel a lot of pressure to provide and really to give security, right, to your wife and to your kids, and I've got an amazing wife who is incredibly supportive, so it makes it much easier.
mhm,
Um, but really trusting God that, yeah, I mean, he's aware, right? He knows what we're going through. He knows that it's hard. Um, but when I get anxious, and it happens, and we spoke about this earlier, it happens more often than I'd like to, than I'd like to admit.
mhm,
Um, then, what am I doing about it? Am I taking my thoughts captive and replacing them with truth? Um, am I really believing that God is who He says He is? Do I really believe that His character is what the Bible, um, says it to be? And, when I'm really taking the time to dive into that, the answer is always
mm,
yes. But where I've gotta get better and what I'm learning to do is, um, to walk into situations with that
mhm,
perspective and not be reactive, not let that be my reaction, kinda like when um, you're, I wanna say kinda like in terms of, like, fighting, because sometimes I think you gotta fight with your thoughts,
mhm,
you gotta fight to take your thoughts captive. But if you're walking in with your fist down, and you just get punched in the face by something, it's better to go into a situation, kind of geared up and armed up and, and ready for what's coming at you.
Yes.
And I think that as believers, that the way we do that is that we have an awareness about us where we first of all, we acknowledge God's presence and we're praying. The Bible tells us to always be praying, but always being aware of God's presence and God's power and God's plan and love for us. And if I can do that on a more moment to moment basis and not
Mhm.
in a not just reacting to something and oh yeah, wait, I need to remember these things, but rather go into situations. I mean, gosh, how much better would life be, if in doing that you could eliminate so much wasted worry and stress.
Yeah.
So I think that's really the big thing that God is showing me what's so great about God is it's so gentle.
Mm,
Just trust me.
mm,
Just trust me.
mm.
And He puts us in situations I think that will make it very clear to us. I was at a conference recently or with Michael Jr. and he says this a lot. Michael Jr. is a great comedian. If anybody wants to look him up, but um, he says, God will constantly put you in situations to show you where you're not free.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
and so, or allow you to be in situations that'll show you that you're not, that will reveal where you're not free. And
Oh, it, like,
I think
stabs
about,
me in the
yeah,
heart. That's brutal.
since I've heard that, I've thought about it a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, because God's always got us. He's always protecting us. But I just
Mhm.
think sometimes we need to know for ourselves. We need to walk through things. Yeah, what God's teaching me or showing me. But also I think in God's mercy and grace, He's also wants us to build confidence on the inside about,
Mm.
it's not so God already knows, but it's so that we can know. Um, we can see where we're not free and then ultimately get freedom there. And going back, what I'm talking about specifically or practically is freedom from stress and worry and just trusting God. Just trusting God. We're also having to trust Him, as we pursue this private lending and private equity. That's a new direction for us.
Mm.
It's something that we're very excited about, um, and something that I feel like we've been given the ability to do very, very well. But that it's going off into a little bit of a different direction, and just in trusting God that we're hearing Him correctly, that this is right for us. Um, so yeah, there's a lot there. It's something we could probably talk about for a long time,
Yeah, I'm
but
glad I asked that question because yeah, you're in a crucible moment right now. What's that saying that you're promoted to the level of your incompetence? It's kinda like God puts you in those positions to figure out where you
Uh,
you need help, and where to strengthen your faith,
yeah,
so
and we always will, right? I mean, there's always like it never ends for the rest of our life. There's always going to be things that's sanctification, right? That's
Mhm.
going to we're going to be working on, but the good thing is yeah, He's here working on it with us. But and you got to be surrounded. You got to surround yourself right with. Hopefully, you've got that family support at
Mhm.
home, like I do, and then also people that you're doing life with. That can speak words of encouragement to you and come alongside you and help you through some of those things.
Amen, amen. Yeah, you cannot do it alone. Cannot do it alone.
No, we weren't designed to, right? That was never the plan.
Yep.
So, yeah, if you are doing it alone, then, that's probably step 1
Yeah.
is, get into community,
Amen.
right?
Amen. Well, I was excited for this show before, but now, like, hearing how you're thinking through things and what you're learning, what God's teaching you in the season, yeah, I'm just so stoked to, like, peel this back every time we meet and just talk more about it and learn, yeah, more about real estate. So I'm hoping our listeners will glean a lot from you as I always have.
Yeah, me too, man. I hope this is helpful, and, we're excited to yeah, to talk about real estate. We love real estate, so I'm always happy to talk about it.
Yeah,
But then also, yeah, get into some life and faith stuff because at the end of the day, that's ultimately what's important.
that's great. That's great. Amen. Well, thank you, Josh. I am so excited to talk to you next time. That'll wrap for our first episode. We'll see you then.
All right. Thanks, Brandon.
Later.